What's going on YouTube? It's Mike here. Today guys, in this video, we're going to mix and produce a song with Avid Pro Tools using Apple Vision Pro. So I've only seen a handful of these type of videos on YouTube so far, here and there making beats or producing a song in Logic or other DAWs, but nothing in Avid's Pro Tools yet. Personally, it's my DAW of choice, and that's where I mix, master, produce, engineer all the songs that I get to work on. And having Apple Vision Pro for a little over a month now, I figured it was finally time to give this a shot. So we're going to be testing things out from a few different angles here. Let's jump right in.
So we'll begin with the Mac mirroring, which, as we all know, is a pretty cool feature that's included on the Apple Vision Pro, and probably at some point I should do its own independent video for. If you guys want to see that, let me know in the comments below, because there's way more that we can cover than just Pro Tools. But anyways, this is where we'll begin, as I share my Mac displays into a single display on the Vision Pro. That's kind of the first unfortunate limitation. You can only have one Mac screen going inside a Vision Pro at a time, so it limits my current setup of 3 displays, which is my 2 dual 27-inch monitors at the bottom, and then the giant TV up top that allows any artists or other folks behind me to be able to see exactly what I'm working on. The cool thing is with Vision Pro, you can mirror your view back to a TV, so I guess in theory, you could still allow others to see what you have going on in the headset, but of course my view being super limited to just the one display. This is definitely a huge limitation when it comes to workflow on Apple Vision Pro that I desperately want to see Apple fix in the not so distant future. I'm talking like visionOS 2, but it's entirely possible that we need more heavy duty hardware to be able to handle this, like an Apple M3 or maybe even an M4 eventually, in order to show multiple displays at once. For me, with Pro Tools working in this DAW, I love having a side-by-side view of both my edit and mix window. I find it very restrictive to only work off of one display, because sometimes I want to mess around with the faders and adjust volumes very easily in the mix window, where it's not so friendly to do that in the edit window, and vice versa when messing around with inserts, plugins, if I'm bussing, so on and so forth. But anyways, once we get the feature up and running, you can see I get a view of my entire display, and I can pretty easily move it around, resize and refit to specification, etc. I know it looks super blurry in some areas. I should point that out early on. This does have to do with the anti-aliasing that Apple kind of has in Vision Pro that sort of only focuses on what your actual pupils are looking at the moment while blurring everything else out around it. And this, helps with power consumption and saves the processor speed for whatever you're looking at. Not the best description, but essentially it makes for the most efficient experience, and I'm sure as Vision Pro gets more powerful as the years roll on, this anti-aliasing will either disappear more or entirely. It'd be nice, but disregard that for now. It does look a lot clearer in the headset, for me at least, and that's all that matters, right? But I hope Apple also does eventually improve screen recording so people can get a better look at what users see inside of the headset, because this is pretty grainy and lousy for right now. That is what it is. It's a separate item for the future down the line. Let's focus on my editing window, which I have a pretty complex session here that's already open and finished, so for this particular one, I won't be going crazy and adding anything new, nor will I be recording any new tracks. As a matter of fact, shameless plug here, this is a new track called Vroom out from one of my artists, Millie Preem. Check it out in the description below. This mix is pretty much done, but sometimes if we notice something in post that we want to go back and revise, we'll just do that. So as I play it back here and look through the stems just to make sure fader tools are done properly and things are sounding right, that's more or less what we're doing here. And you can see with my input with my trackball at the bottom with my Magic Trackpad and Magic Keyboard, which I should be clear, are still Bluetooth connected to my Mac, not my Vision Pro. Thanks to muscle memory, I'm able to navigate it pretty fluidly without looking down too much at my input. Now, on a separate note, yes, you can use a Magic Trackpad and keyboard with Apple Vision Pro, but that is strictly to navigate the visionOS interface, not macOS, and I think I probably should cover this in a separate video at some point too. My peripherals at the bottom are still being fed through my Mac and thus are usable technically in tandem with Vision Pro, but not actually working through Vision Pro's operating system, if that makes sense. Unfortunately, you can't use Apple Vision Pro or visionOS gestures with your Mac mirrored display. And I guess that makes sense, right? Because the Mac user interface with buttons are extremely small and detailed, which highly contrasts Vision Pro's interface with much larger iOS-sized buttons that are much easier to navigate, select, tap, swipe, etc. I hope, although I'm not super optimistic, eventually we will be able to use Vision Pro gestures with the Mac operating system when mirroring your Mac display in Vision Pro, but we're definitely nowhere near that, so I don't expect that to be remotely near future for years to come, but let's see if Apple proves me wrong. But if you can get into a good groove, which I actually wind up doing so, the Mac input isn't so hard to use while looking at Vision Pro, and obviously if you're not immersed, you can get a good view just by looking down at your Mac peripherals every now and then like you normally would if you didn't have the headset on. Now, I want to show you something else really cool. Avid actually developed an app for the iPad called Avid Control, if you didn't know, which after installing a ton of different drivers onto your Mac, if you're on an Apple Silicon Mac, you actually need to change some security settings from boot, but once that's all said and done, you can actually control the mix board from your iPad, and as we talked about in my review, hundreds of thousands and if not close to millions of apps are already available on the visionOS App Store that are iPad compatible, so yeah, bam, you can actually use Pro Tools with a native app through Vision Pro. I had to try this out myself, and sure enough, it surprisingly works pretty well. And when I say pretty well, I'm talking about my hand gestures on Vision Pro. You can see I can adjust my faders, I can even go into specific plugins or inserts, I can change gains, mix quality, etc. I wouldn't say it's super practical, but the proof of concept does work well. I could sit on my couch during playback while I have the left-hand side of my Mac window, and on the right side I have the Avid Control app to mix precisely how I want. The other nice aspect is the sound continues to flow out of my interface connected to my Mac, so I'm getting the full quality sound from my studio monitors and not the sound from the Vision Pro, which if you're in the industry, you definitely wouldn't want to hear playback from your DAW through Vision Pro. Who knows, maybe that's something that gets better someday too, but for now, I want to rely on my Yamaha HS8s. The only caveat here is obviously if you're going to move somewhere else inside your studio or music creation space with the Vision Pro away from where your studio monitors would point, sound direction may become inaccurate. So in this case, I'm sitting down on the couch, kind of lying back, and my studio monitors are to the left of me, so things are coming from the left side of the room in terms of sound, and there may be some disorientation of sound travel which may lead to altering your mix in a not so pleasant way. So just bear that in mind. This should really be used for casual mix edits as you feel out the sound by moving around in different parts of the room. I don't know about you guys, but I love mixing music that way, so this actually was a plus for me, but maybe a negative if you're really trying to focus on improving the quality of the mix if you're earlier on in the process. Real briefly, we'll just go ahead and try out an engineering session. This one I'm much earlier in the beginning stages where we're laying down some voice tracks. Actually, I have my cousin OK Cronin here laying down this new Starry commercial bit featuring some vocal work from Millie Preem himself. They collaborated last holiday on Cranberry Christmas, a little short I produced myself with them you could check out in the description below. We're working on the next banger now. Surprisingly, engineering is way easier in this project stage using Vision Pro, but with an exception. Again, I need the Mac peripherals close to me like my trackpad and keyboard so I can navigate the session and timeline fluidly while I punch in and out, split clips, add fader tools, reposition, add some pitch correction, the works. Again, there's definitely a bit of a curve here and it takes some time to get used to, but once you get into a nice groove, I was able to engineer these guys for a couple hours with the headset on. No joke. It's a pretty cool experience, definitely not perfect, but I'm thinking about just as how the technology of Vision Pro improves in the future, both on the hardware and software fronts, this will become way more practical, and all of a sudden you won't need giant screens and monitors any longer. We're definitely not there yet though, so I have to keep clarifying that this is really proof of concept. Someone said on X the other day, Vision Pro feels like a really advanced dev kit, and now I can see what they mean by that.
Anyways, that just about wraps this one up. If you guys want to see more videos like this, where I delve into a creative suite of apps and kind of see how they work in Vision Pro, whether it be Apple's Final Cut maybe, or Logic Pro, or maybe we move over to something like Adobe with Premiere and Photoshop, After Effects, just let me know in the comments down below. Apart from day-to-day tasks, I'm trying to see how this fits into my creative pursuits as well. Please be sure to leave a like below, and of course hit that subscribe button as well, so you can stay updated as soon as I drop the next video. That's it for now. I'll see you guys in the next one.